What's up, guys? So today we're going to be talking about James Gunn's 2025 Superman movie. As we do with stories, we're going to break it down by characters and plot, because at a molecular level, plot and characters are what comprise a story. Now, could be a bad story, could be a good story, but that's why Story Art Online is here to critique. If you've been enjoying these videos, by the way, please like and subscribe. I am begging you, shamelessly, because I'm at 18 subscribers, pretty small on the YouTube, but I'm hoping to grow this thing, and you can be a big part of that. Now, without further ado, diving into the Superman movie. We're going to be looking at characters first. It's a little bit of an easier one to tackle. David Cornsweet nailed his role as Superman. I am going to say that, and I am a Henry Cavill fanboy. However, David Cornsweet really sold me on the Boy Scout persona of Superman. Would use words like gosh and golly, and that's been something that's been missing from past movies. It worked for me. It was fantastic. As far as the visual component, he looks the part. I mean, he's big, he's blue-eyed, dark-haired, has a little curl, square jaw. Again, I'm a Henry Cavill fanboy, so Henry Cavill is kind of like my peak. Hey, that's what Superman is like in my mind. However, David Cornsweet did a great job, and I'm saying that as someone who watched Twisters like months prior to seeing the new Superman movie. And I know that came out a few years ago, but it was very jarring for me to see him as pseudo-villainous character in that movie, and then to see him as Superman in this one.
Is this your game? Huh?
So it was pretty interesting, but overall, I think he really nailed the role, made us, the audience, empathetic to his plight and to what he was trying to accomplish and the ideals he was trying to live up to. And he shined as Clark Kent. I mean, he really captured Clark's essence. He wasn't just Superman, but he was kind of this lovable nerd when he was cooking dinner for Lois and they have that argument. Just goes to show that, hey, he can play the two characters, which are essentially one. Now, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor really stole the show, in my opinion. You'll hear that a lot. I'm not trying to bandwagon, but he just crushed that role. I mean, he was Lex Luthor, probably the best portrayal of Lex Luthor that I've ever seen, and I think that a lot of people have ever seen. He did an excellent job of kind of being this manic, almost Joker-esque villain. So he really nailed this role. Everything from his bald head to his sharp eyebrows. And the youth surprisingly worked really well. I've always kind of imagined Lex Luthor as a little bit of an older person in my mind, but he would be roughly the same age as Superman. It's believable that he would make decisions based on ego because he has not been wizened by life. He hates Superman because Superman is something different. He's supernaturally gifted. And yet at the same time, Lex Luthor in his own way is supernaturally gifted with his incredible intelligence. And let's be honest, his money. Money! He's not content. He wants to take down Superman and not just take him down, but strip him of his dignity and his reputation. So he wants to absolutely obliterate this guy. Now, the last we'll look at is Lois Lane, and she was played by Rachel Brosnahan. I have seen The Marvelous Miss Maisel, and she was fantastic in that show. That entire show, it was really excellent. She's a very skilled actress, and I was pleasantly surprised by her performance as Lois Lane. She didn't just like take over and start girl bossing or anything like that, but she did add layers of complexity to the story and push back on Superman and some of the ideals that he had. Some of that, to me, seemed a little forced and contrite, but we can dive into that more with the plot. Overall, she had the look, she had the character and the feel, and I would say is one of the underrated performers in the entire movie, just because I think that Lois Lane is a hard character to nail. I mean, when you think about it, you're trying to create somebody who is riveting enough for Superman to be invested in. I applaud James Gunn for showcasing the chemistry between David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan. I mean, there really was something there. You could feel the tension and the intensity between the two of them. That was something that they really didn't do that much in Man of Steel. It has been over a decade since I've seen that movie, but I don't remember feeling similarly about Amy Adams and Henry Cavill. Now, you had more characters who absolutely shined in the movie. I mean, there was a lot of characters who did shine in the movie. Mr. Terrific, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl. And I would say that my favorite scene in the whole movie was when Mr. Terrific arrived in Lex Luthor's camp to try and save Superman, and he's with Lois Lane. Yeah, well, I feel pretty happy too, and I'm always pretty happy, but I'm just kicking back with you. I mean, it's just great. The action, the colors, I mean, everything. It was quintessential James Gunn. Let's talk about the plot. Now, speaking of quintessential James Gunn, this was a little bit of a mess. It was pretty messy. It was complex. It didn't quite make sense. There was a lot of plot armor going on. I, again, spoke with my buddy the other week on the Writers Guild podcast. He pointed out to me that Man of Steel had its own level of plot armor and plot holes. And I mean, it's just something you're going to find in superhero movies, especially ones about pretty much impervious heroes and we're trying to work in tension, and it's like, well, we got kryptonite and that's about it. What I thought they did really well was beginning the movie in Superman's more mature state of his career. It's not an origin story by any means. In fact, he's won every single battle up until this point, and the movie opens with the first battle that he's ever lost, and it is to the Hammer of Baravia.
The United States will continue to feel the wrath of the Hammer of Baravia.
It was a bold move. James Gunn was rolling the dice with this because we had not yet established emotional connections to Superman. Of course, we know his lore, we know he's a legend, but to see him getting kicked around and beat, and actually the first scene itself is him sliding through the snow and he's been beat up, it's a little bit jarring, and yet pulled us. I think it was a good enough hook, or it functioned as a hook to pull us into the story and want to know why, who was beating him. Now, for me, it was a little bit of a turnoff just because I don't like to immediately see my hero getting absolutely kicked around and smashed. But when you expect Superman to win and he doesn't, that does build a much more intriguing story. The issue I take with that, though, is Superman, he goes to the Fortress of Solitude and then he regenerates and then he goes back to fight or finish off the Hammer of Baravia. And he gets thwarted again and beat down. And then the hammer does not finish him. So to me, this was a little bit odd. I don't understand why Lex Luthor would keep him alive. You have him on the ropes. He's a superhuman. His only weakness is kryptonite. Yet you've created, spoiler alert, this clone of him that is taking him down. Why would you not just finish him then and there? Why would you need to completely dismantle the Superman brand, let's say, which is essentially, I think, why he kept him alive. He wanted to strip down this idea, this notion, this reputation that Superman had, and he did not want to create a martyr. So you could make that argument. I don't think they did a good job of making that argument or making it clear in the story why Lex didn't finish him off in that initial scene. I also think it would have been much more powerful if Superman had escaped on his own. I guess that would be for a second time, but it would have explained why he wasn't killed in that scene. Now, the story commences, and it's a little bit all over the place, so I'm not going to dive too far into it, but they do try and tackle ideas like, hey, what if Superman gets involved in foreign affairs? What are the consequences of his actions? And he does end up turning himself in. I don't know why directors, I mean, there was a similar scene in Man of Steel where the public turns on him and he turns himself over to justice. In my opinion, we live in a flawed society, and the justice system and the government is flawed, and by no means should you just turn yourself over if you know what you're doing is right or your intentions are pure and you do have superseding power. And I guess the whole idea there is, oh no, you still should do that, which I fundamentally disagree with. But everyone kind of likes having their Superman in chains scene, and then he ends up finding a way to break out of prison, which, by the way, I disagree with a lot of critics. I don't think that he took a backseat in his own movie during that, because he does break out of prison on his own. It's by befriending the creature that has him comatose due to the kryptonite that he's able to conjure. And so Superman does break out, but that whole sequence, pretty much after Mr. Terrific shows up and does his swaggerous entry with the flying metal balls and the music, I mean, it's fantastic, just chef's kiss. But after that, it really started to fall apart for me with the prison scene. I just was struggling a little bit to feel engaged. I think that's some of the slower parts of the movie. It wasn't so believable, in my opinion, that Superman would just turn himself in like that, especially when he knows that he was doing the right thing. And Lois Lane, I don't hate the idea of them having an argument. All couples do. They should absolutely have arguments. But I thought it was a little weird how she was pressing him on this particular point. And I get that she was trying to show what the media would do to him. But to me, it seemed a little bit unnecessary and forced. Like, she knows that he's doing the right thing. So why give him a hard time about that, especially when the man's trying to cook you dinner and have a good time?
Hey, let him cook. You'll feel better. Go ahead.
Again, you could say, hey, it's just pointing to their humanness and how they're struggling through this together, and how Superman, even though he's a superhuman, is still human.
That is where you've always been wrong about me, Lex. I'm as human as anyone.
But overall, the plot does find its way. It's a little bit odd. There's a black hole. There's a big space alien in the city. It all does a great job, I think, of world building, but it's not super cohesive. And it is a little bit of that quintessential James Gunn mess. And you just kind of have to embrace it. Know you're going to have a good time. There's lots of colors. The cinematography is fantastic. I mean, the flight scenes are really, really cool. The action, where there is action, I think was great. It wasn't cheesy. And Superman does come out on top. There's definitely a struggle there. I think it explores themes of what it means to be human and the vulnerability we can all feel, not just from exterior forces, but also from what's inside us. And that's really what Lex Luthor was kind of trying to exploit the whole time there. So overall, did I like it? Yeah, I thought it was a good movie. I think I would agree with the IMDb rating, which is a 7.1. I think that's about how I would rate it. I think that it was a solid movie. It had some slower points. It had some plot holes or plot armor, but at the same time, it was enjoyable and sets up the DC universe for a new and exciting chapter. I'm really excited about this James Gunn take because I think it will be a lot truer to the comics and have a very different tone than what we've seen before in superhero movies. S is for hope. The future is bright. I think the DC universe had a good showing with this movie, grossed over 600 million, over 300 domestically. The first time a DC movie has done that since Superman versus Batman, The Dawn of Justice. So it shows that people are re-engaged with these characters, and that's really, really good for the longevity of the DC universe and for future movies like this.